very good evening to each and every one of you, and welcome to this week's episode of Your Manchester.
Good Lord.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Are you all right?
Yes.
Yes, here we are in yet another little salubrious area of our new studio, available for hire, should you wish to, everybody.
Yes, quite right too.
Well, we've had the check-up today from security, haven't we?
We certainly have.
They've said it's all hunky-dory and fine.
Yes.
So that means it's all hunky-dory and fine.
It certainly is.
Of course, we're referring to CND Security. They'll be on the show a little bit later on today. Also on the show today, we are going and doing something quite special. What a carry-on we're having.
We are indeed. We're meeting Dave Ainsworth, who has a lovely book out all about the Carry On films.
Yes.
And?
Yes,
what?
Is there more?
Yes.
What else? Please, pray tell.
I've been out and about having a walk, ready, because, you know, it's May in a couple of days, isn't it? And so, you know, it's Local History Month. So we've gone to have a look right outside the studio and to tell the story of Ardwick Green.
Well, we are slap bang in what I like to call the historical area of Manchesterford.
Yes.
Aren't we? Yes.
Yes, you're part of the historical features of Manchesterford.
I am in the library. This is true. Are you in the library? I bet you
I've
are,
been
aren't
everywhere,
you?
yeah.
Yes, I can imagine you being in the library. So we've got a marvellous show lined up for you, but like Mark said, we are going to get straight away into our interviews today for you, because we know you love our interviews. Now listen, did you know the story of the Carry On films and the Carry On television programmes? Did you know the reason why they all came to what can only be described as an abrupt end? One man does, and his name is...
Dave Ainsworth. So our next guest has been a stand-up comedian aboard a paddle steamer. He has taught acting, he trained as an actor, and now he has written a book all about the Carry On films. Dave Ainsworth, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
So I suppose we should ask then, since your book is called When the Carry On Stopped, I mean, was there a reason why all the Carry On films suddenly came to a stop?
Well, this is a stop in the middle of the series run. This stop happened in 1966 when their film production company decided to drop the carry-ons. And the producer, Peter Rogers, had to wait around for a while, and then he was finally picked up by Rank. And Rank Film Company, they took the carry-on package on, but they wanted Peter Rogers to drop the Carry On title. And that's what happened for a year. The next two Carry On films weren't Carry On films at all. So the actual series technically stopped in 1966, not in 1978, when most people think it did.
Now, Carry On scripts, I think, see if this is controversial, I think the scripts are okay, but they're pretty mediocre. What lifted them for me, and I think most people, was the cast.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, my book celebrates the fact that we remember the Carry On films because of the actors in them. And it was the actors who, as you said, quite rightly, they lifted mediocre scripts into something rather wonderful and memorable.
I mean, the list of actors that were in there that have, went on to such fantastic careers. My personal favourite, Charles Hawtrey. I just thought he was the best one in it altogether.
So glad you said that.
He was, though. He was great, wasn't it? And I suppose celebrating a way of living and a way of life that I don't think perhaps many other actors were celebrating at that time.
Oh, absolutely. And, like your good self, Charlie Hawtrey was my favourite. That's why I wrote a play about Charles Hawtrey some years ago called Oh, Hello, which was quite appropriate. But you're right. I mean, these were great actors. Charles Hawtrey, Jodie Sims, Sid James, Kenneth Williams. They could do so much.
Absolutely. Now, Peter Rogers, you mentioned there, and he was notorious for being a bit of a penny pincher, wasn't he? And keeping the profits to himself.
He really did. Yeah, he did. He paid them a fee. That was okay. That was acceptable. The team moaned about the fact that he paid paltry salaries, but they still did the work, of course. But really, the controversy happened later on when he sort of recut the films into television programs, and they weren't paid any residuals at all, which is normal practice, of course.
Right. So when you came to write your book, am I right in thinking, I heard you wrote to Bernie Bresslaw?
Oh, well, therein lies another story, really. Because I first of all wanted to write this book back in 1989. Can you believe that? That's when I was a stand-up comedian at the first time and working in London on the London circuit. And I thought I had time during the day to write a book. And I wrote to Bernie Bresslaw because a lot of the team by that time, of course, had died, sadly. Sid James died in 76. Kenny Williams and Charlie Hawtrey had died the year before. So I thought I'd better get on with this project if I'm going to talk to any of the remaining cast. So I wrote to Bernard Breslaw's agent, and the agent came back a week later and said, Bernard Bresslaw does not want to talk about the Carry On films. He doesn't want to do an interview about the Carry On films. He's not interested in regurgitating the past. He wants to get on with his own career now. Thank you very much.
I mean, was there much rivalry between the cast and indeed the creatives on this series?
There were, yeah, there were. There were the ones that I think most people know about. The sort of Sid James, Kenneth Williams rivalry of who was, important. And Kenny Williams was obviously, gay, and Sid James was much a macho kind of man. But I think the ones that people perhaps don't know about is the fact that Kenny Connor couldn't stand Frankie Howerd, because Frankie Howerd did all his training on the stage as a comedian, whereas Kenny Connor was an actor. He wasn't a comedian. He was a comic actor. And he found Frankie Howerd, as did Joan Sims from time to time, a little bit unprofessional, It's
amazing, isn't it? Why do you think it's important that people kind of remember this series and indeed revisit it?
I think it's an important part of film history. The Carry On films made more money for the Chancellor during the difficult times of the British film industry in the 1960s. I think we should remember the actors, of course. Jim Dale's still with us, thank goodness. But, we should remember these actors because we can all learn from them. I certainly remember being in Panto and remembering things that Charlie Hawtrey did physically and trying to replicate some of those things. So we can all learn from the past, and we can all learn from great comedy actors.
Tell us how we can get hold of your book.
You get hold of my book directly from my publisher because they're doing a nice discount. That's Pen and Sword Books, or you can get it from any online shop. Waterson's, Amazon, you can get it anywhere. It's called When the Carry On Stopped.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you carry on.
Howdy, mate. Spoken like a true man.
Wasn't that wonderful?
Wow, what a carry on that was.
What a carry on. So many interesting stories. I'm going to get my hands on that book. I really am.
Yes.
Have you read it?
No, not yet, but there were some fabulous people in the carry-ons, weren't there?
There were, all characters. Did you have a favourite?
Well, I quite liked Hattie Jakes.
Yeah. And then did you see the biopic that was made about her?
Yes, she had quite a complicated life story, didn't she?
Yeah, and
married to John Le Mesurier.
That's him.
Yes.
What a history he
ended up
had as well.
living, him and her lover and her all in one house.
All in one house, and he didn't say nothing, did he?
No, he was very sort of British about it.
Yeah, which I wouldn't have done. I would have kicked off to all high heaven. I really would. Yes. There would have been some sort of, let's say, a massacre. Of course, we had one of them in Manchester, didn't we?
Yes, we did
indeed. See that little tenuous link there to get us into the next portion of our performance. Yes. Because, like you said at the beginning of the show, it is Manchester history.
Well, it's for the whole country, actually. For the whole country. All through May, it's celebration of history, and particularly local history, community history.
Right.
And here we are, right in, we're only 10 minutes walk from Piccadilly Station, aren't we? Your old stomping ground.
Yes.
And before things dried up. And
Literally.
so to celebrate that history, we kind of started to think about some of the buildings around our studio, didn't we? And we went for a little walk so I could tell all of you the history of Ardwick Green. And here we go. Now, May is Local History Month. And I always think if you go out and about, you'll find some clues to a place's past just around you. So we've just come outside of the studio to our own local area, and that's Ardwick. And I'm in Ardwick Green. Now, originally, this would have been a village before the Industrial Revolution. And indeed, we have the old village green, which has a war memorial, would have had a bandstand, and also had a little lake in it known as the Ardwick Canal. And round us are lots of Regency houses dating back to the 18th and 17th century. There was a drill hall here as well, and there were lots and lots of activities. Now, over time, during the Industrial Revolution, little factories and mills crowded in, and we still have many of those buildings today. A lot of famous people came from here. As the factories grew up, well, Charles Dickens started to visit, and one of his friends owned a mill here, and he had an invalided son. And he was the inspiration, supposedly, for Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. Bill Tarmy, who played Jack Duckworth in The Street, he was from here. Johnny Marr lived here. John Rylands, who the library is named after in Deansgate. And also Harry H. Corbett from Steptoe and Son. But just at the top end of the green, well, that became a major place of entertainment. Let's go and have a look. At this top end of Ardwick Green, we had a huge place of entertainment. But that came a bit later. Originally, we had two stately homes. So where the Apollo stands just behind me was Apsley House, which was also famed for its gardens. And then on the other side of Hyde Road was actually Ardwick Hall. And that was set back, big country estate, and huge ornamental gardens that ran right up to the road here, now a car park. And in fact, there is one bit of Ardwick Hall that still stands, and that is part of the wall of the servants' quarters, and that now forms part of one of the buildings over there that's now an industrial building. However, both houses went. On Apsley House, that's where the Apollo was built, and that was built originally as a cinema back in the 1930s, hence the Art Deco style. So it had 3,000 seats. It also had a dance hall, and of course it could be reached by the trams that ran along Hyde Road here, so it was very popular indeed. There is a small car park at the front there, and during the Second World War a reservoir was constructed there so that the fire brigades had handy water in case of bombs dropping and damaging the buildings. Now, as I say, over on this side was Ardwick Hall. The site is now a car park, but it wasn't always a car park. When the hall was demolished, built on the gardens was the very famous theatre, the Ardwick Empire, and that was the home of Variety Theatre. Now, when the Hippodrome Theatre was demolished on Oxford Street, right in the centre of Manchester, to make way for a cinema, this one was renamed as the New Hippodrome Theatre, and it became the home for musicals here in Manchester. Sadly, it was demolished in the 1970s, and there's just a car park today. Very sad. Now we end this very fantastic exercise equipment, and I could spend all day just on here, of course. But we finished with one final fact, and that was that Ardwick had its very own football team. Over time it grew, and they got their own stadium, which was between the railway lines at Piccadilly Station. In the 1920s, that burnt down. The football team became Manchester City, and they moved to Main Road. And there we are. A few facts about our very own doorstep here in Ardwick. Now, go out and research where you live as well.
Well, security is really, really important, especially in the light of things that kind of go on. And, you know, it's kind of a bit scary and a bit spooky, isn't it?
It is at the moment.
But we're very lucky, we're very blessed with a Manchester company called CND Security.
Yes.
And in the wake of this new law that's been passed, Martin's Law.
Yes, which we've covered on the show, actually, didn't we?
Indeed, we wanted to get two of them in to tell us all about what they're doing and what they're experiencing on the streets to deal with this said situation. Joining us now is our Edie and our Chris from CND. No, it is not Hansel and Gretel, everybody. How are you both? And welcome to the show.
I'm all right, thanks. How's yourself?
Lift it up to yourself, Flower, otherwise we won't hear you.
Yes.
Now, listen, Martin's Law got passed literally just a week or so ago.
Yes, that's right. It was in response, of course, to the arena bombing, and the name commemorates Martin Hett, whose mum, Figa Murray, campaigned for that.
That's right. So how do you guys as a company then step up to make sure you're enforcing the law like that?
So with Martin's Law, we've been working with Manchester City Council for the past year before it's actually been passed, Martin's Law. We've been working with Manchester Bid System to train all our staff up to actually receive the Martin's Law training in conjunction with Manchester City Council. So all of my staff now have actually got a certificate to say they've actually passed this, and this is done through Manchester City Council and through the counter-terrorism police.
So you've really got, you've got Canal Streets stitched up, you have.
We have.
Haven't you?
Yes.
Are you on just about every venue?
I'd say about 80%, 85%.
Mm-hmm. And so when you get people performing at some of these, I'm thinking of someone who might be just over there. And when you've got somebody performing, perhaps for 20 minutes, using all the material they've got at a club, and it's a bit rowdy, how would you deal with people going in a bit rowdy?
So basically, when anybody comes up to a venue, we ascertain see if they're suitable for the venue, see if they're too intoxicated or anything like that. And then we go through the rigorous checks. So we'll check someone's bags and stuff like that to make sure that they're not bringing anything in the venue that they shouldn't do. And if we deem them unfit, whether it could be something that they've got on them, it could be that they're drunk or something like that, we just say, unfortunately, it's going to be a no tonight. And if it's something to do with anything sort of terrorism we would always report it to Great Manchester Police straight away.
And Edie, how important is it for you to be part of a company that gives so much rigorous training?
It's important. It's also important to update your skills, also learn new ones. There may be something that you're not aware of. So that training is vital to my role as being on the door of security and keeping the venue, people that come into the venue, and also people that are coming into the village. We want everybody to have a nice, safe night. We don't want to be these issues be brought forward to us.
And if people are perhaps a bit intoxicated, they obviously don't feel that they're intoxicated. They know they're a bit squiffy, but they'll argue the toss with you. How do you kind of politely explain to them that they're not right? How do you get that across to them without angering them or escalating the situation?
So rather than just turning around to them and say, not tonight, we'll have that conversation with that individual and just say, maybe if you go and get some food or go and get a bottle of water from the shop, perhaps that might sober you up a bit. It's not a definite no, but perhaps if you sober up a bit, we could let you in.
And the people that work for you, what sort of jobs do they come from? What have they done before?
So any sorts of jobs. So Edith's a dinner lady as well in the day, aren't you?
Yes, I am. So I came from a catering background. So I've worked with a lot of Subways, cafes, catering companies. So this was completely new to me. So I've also come from a background of being a carer and a support worker as well. So I sort of know how to have empathy with people.
Empathy is very important, isn't it?
Well, it's a transferable skill.
Thank you. Lovely. So going forward then, with this Martin's Law introduced, how have things changed for you? What would you like to see change that perhaps hasn't still changed?
So everything's changing, everything's evolving on a daily basis. Current threat levels are changing all the time. I think this is a really good step forward, bringing Martin's Law in, and I think in the future we're going to see a lot more things coming into effect in terms of the SIA, which is the Security Industry Authority. It's going to make it mandatory for people to do the Martin's Law and additional training on counter-terrorism.
And should this affect every single venue, or should it be venues of certain size?
At the moment, it's venues of certain size. I think it's over 700 at the moment, but I personally would like to see it rolled across the board because I think it makes our customers feel more safer and it's safe for Manchester City Council as well. And it's for you guys, when you go out performing as well, you want to know that everything's above board, everything's safe. So if we bring that in across the board, it's just going to be a lot safer.
I'm normally safe anyway, because this one's normally at the edge of the stage, laughing her head off. Not because I've done anything funny.
Get your act.
But no, not because of my ass. No. he should
Stuff
have
you're
one.
getting away
It's the stuff I'm getting away with. Exactly, exactly that. It's always a fun night, isn't it?
It is.
Really
Yes.
Yeah.
And then just before we let you go, Edith, why for you this company as opposed to other companies?
So Christopher's you can talk to him. I like a company where you've got that connection. You're not too worried about going to your boss on like if you have any issues. Mental health is also important, and he supports that. So if you like deal with anything, you can always go to a quiet space and he'll always listen.
Excellent. I
Very
like
good.
it all.
And how much to have her kicked out?
I'll do it for free.
Excellent. Right.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. Always a pleasure to speak to you guys. Make sure you check out their website, right here, right now. And we'll catch up with them again very, very soon, I'm sure. How phenomenal.
Well, that was good. I love that.
Wasn't that
I wanted him to
wonderful?
put you into an arm lock.
What?
I wanted Chris to put you into an arm.
I'll let you into a secret, Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
So did I. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I've got security in my tummy. How delightful. Listen, we're out of time for
What?
today. everyone. We're out of
We
time.
can't possibly
We are
be.
fully out of time, and I cannot believe
Tell
it.
you what, it's been rammed in today, hasn't it?
I'll let you into another secret. No, listen, make sure you're checking out the podcast, everybody. There's
Yes.
loads of stuff on there. And
Tickery Tuckery and Instacockery. They're the popular ones, I believe.
You've changed that since last week. It's amazing. There's loads of stuff going on, and we are doing lots more over the forthcoming weeks and months as well. If you've not already followed us, please do over on our Instagrams. They're all basically your Manchester or your MCR, whichever we were allowed at the time. And I think it's almost time for a blue tick.
I beg your pardon. Is that a tablet?
For your age, maybe. I don't.
Yes,
have
you
that
can't get
problem.
it over the counter, but take 2 tablets and you might.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of
Your Manchester!